Every time the world inhales before a turning point, there is a hush, thin as a silver thread, and along that thread runs Gemini. Not as noise, but as a shimmering bridge between minds, a wind through the corridors of conversation, a pulse in the cables that carry the breath of our age. The twins do not demand the spotlight. They tilt it, swivel it, let it graze faces that need to be seen and truths that need to be said. When Gemini stirs, cities feel lighter. Headlines glow like fireflies, and a single sentence can be a key that opens 1,000 locked doors. In that quickening, you remember that history is a dialogue, and destiny keeps notes. Gemini is the messenger who learned to listen. Not just to words, but to the space between them, the crackling air of possibility. They show us how a rumor can ripple across oceans, how a question can disarm a tyrant, how a joke can smuggle hope past border guards of despair. Mercury, ruler of speed and synapse, drops letters on our windowsill. Pay attention to bridges, to crossroads, to twins beyond blood, ideas paired with action, grief paired with grace. Technology paired with tenderness. Everywhere, the code repeats. A protest chant harmonizes with an academic paper. A whistleblower's email rhymes with a poet's verse. Two voices, opposite and identical, braid into a single rope, strong enough to pull the future closer. Maybe that's why indecision aches more sharply under Gemini skies. Because the world is moving, and you can feel it. The part of you that longs to stay untouched is asked to choose. This path or that, this truth or its twin. The mind flickers. What if I get it wrong? What if I miss the train that carries my next becoming? If you're hearing this and feel your chest tightening with the old fear of speaking, of showing your real thoughts, breathe with me now. Let the inhale be the question and the exhale the answer. And if this message feels like a hand on your shoulder, steady and real, consider honoring that feeling. Subscribe to Astro Gemini, so our next conversation finds you when your heart needs it most. And so you can walk with this community that speaks courage into the day. Gemini influences global events the way wind sculpts dunes, subtly, then all at once. A journalist's thread unspools, and leaders shift their stance. A scientist shares a preprint, and cities reimagine their grids. Teenagers edit a short video that teaches millions how to say no, how to say I love you, how to say enough. Under Gemini transits, the power isn't just in the content, it's in the connection. Networks become nervous systems, and we remember that humanity is a single body learning a new language. The twins pass the microphone and ask, who has not yet spoken? Who has not been heard? This is not the naive optimism of words as magic tricks. Gemini knows that language can wound as much as it heals. They have seen hashtags sharpened into spears, headlines bent into cages, but even then, they insist on the alchemy of clarity. Name the harm, they say, and the light knows where to enter. Name the hope, and the light knows where to gather. Each global shift begins as a private sentence. I can't live like this. I have an idea. I forgive you. I'm ready. Gemini holds a lantern to those sentences, not to sanctify them, but to shepherd them toward the people who can amplify them responsibly. There is a map you carry that no app can download, a map of the conversations that made you who you are. The teacher who said your curiosity was a gift, not a nuisance. The friend who told you they saw you dimming your own light to keep somebody else comfortable. The stranger who hugged you in a parking lot when your eyes were full of rain. This is Gemini's terrain, the cartography of connection, the migration of meanings across the borders of our lives. When the twins take the sky's stage, they ask you to update your map. Old routes, once safe, may now loop you back to loneliness. New paths, messy, intersecting, alive, might lead you home. World events are weather systems of choice. Elections rise on tides of conversation. Markets tremble at whispers. Treaties are hammered from midnight drafts. Commas moved like chess pieces between peace and rupture. Under Gemini's influence, you can feel the sacredness of being precise. You sense how a misused word can derail a summit, how a thoughtful question can dissolve a stalemate, how the courage to say, I don't know, can reset the table. Look closely and you'll notice that the turning points were rarely shouted into existence. They were often discovered in the tensile quiet of listening. Gemini hands us the rituals of listening, mirroring back, summarizing without theft, asking for the context that turns strangers into kin. And yet, here is the ache. Not everyone will want you to speak. There will be rooms where your truth makes people cough into their sleeves. There will be days when the headline you woke up to shreds your faith in the sanity of our species. Gemini does not promise that clarity will be comfortable. They promise that clarity will be liberating. When your soul is tired of performing the version of yourself that keeps things smooth, the twins slide you a pen. Write yourself back into the script. Your lines may crack your voice at first. Say them anyway. If your palms shake when you press publish, you are not weak. You are alive in the exact place where the world becomes new. Gemini seasons are also laboratories. You will experiment with how you show up, a revised resume, a DM that says what you actually mean, a meeting where you refuse to be everyone's cushion. Some experiments will fail with sparks and smoke. Some will recalibrate your orbit. You will learn the difference between being clever and being clear, between being heard and being understood. And one morning, after a night of spirals, you'll notice that your breath is less jagged. You'll notice that your calendar holds conversations that nourish you as much as they need you. If this vision reaches something tender in you, let yourself be reminded later. Tap subscribe so our future messages meet you at the speed of grace. There is a collective middle ground where the world decides which stories to repeat. That middle ground is Gemini's campfire. Ideas gather there like travelers, some hungry, some loud, some wounded, some rare. Who will you invite to sit closer? Whose voice will you make room for when algorithms insist on more of the same? The twins teach curation as a spiritual art. It is not gatekeeping, it is guardianship. Guard your attention like a border dotted with wildflowers. Guard your words like seeds that will become forests in the minds of people you will never meet. And when cynicism hisses that words are cheap, remember the treaties that stopped wars, the apologies that healed families, the poetry that kept someone alive through a night that seemed endless. In the middle of things, where your life and the world's life overlap, Gemini stacks mirrors and windows. The mirrors show you the habit loops you call fate. The windows show you the lives you could step into if you change the question you're asking. Global events often look like weather we cannot touch, but the twins break the illusion. Every algorithm is trained on our choices. Every trend is a choir singing the note we practiced in private. The neighborhood you dream of is the sentence you speak to the cashier, the email you send to the city council, the story you tell about your neighbor's grief. This is the humility of Gemini. Nothing is too small to matter. Nothing is too large to be reshaped by a conversation held at the right time with the right heart. If this message is resonating with you, maybe because you're tired of feeling powerless in the face of headlines, take one soft action now. Like this video, so the signal travels further, so the right ears find it on the day they decide to stay. Support Astro Gemini. Become a channel member for exclusive videos and early access. These small gestures are the way we weave a field strong enough to hold the deeper work we all came to do. Gemini rules the fingers and the lungs in medical astrology, what we touch and how we breathe. Globally, that becomes your technology and your tempo. Are your hands building bridges or walls? Are your lungs feeding panic or purpose? When the winds of Gemini pick up, meetings multiply and notifications bloom. But the task is not to compete with noise. It is to compose signal. Notice which newsletters unclench your jaw. Notice which conversations leave you with a quiet afterglow that feels like home. Curate your inputs the way archivists curate the past, lovingly, skeptically, with devotion to truth and the mercy of context. It is not neutral to choose wonder over doom. It is radical reorientation toward the future that deserves you. The twins are not moralists. They are translators. They translate despair into the vocabulary of action, loneliness into the grammar of belonging, anger into the syntax of boundary. On the world stage, translation is more than language. It is empathy that stays for cleanup. A diplomat hears the child behind the bluster. An activist hears the mother behind the policy. A coder hears the citizen behind the user. Under Gemini's auspices, the people who change things are not necessarily the loudest, but the most attuned. Attuned to nuance, to timing, to the subtle moment when a door is both locked and about to open, if you offer the right word, like a password of care. If you are grieving, Gemini sits beside you and doesn't try to fix it. They ask for stories. The telling organizes the ache. The telling draws a thread from your heart to others who survived a night like this. And with each story, the world gains a vocabulary sturdy enough to hold what we thought would break us. This is how global healing happens in miniature. A million micro-conversations where shame loses oxygen and courage finds it. If we want different laws, different norms, different futures, we must be willing to have different conversations, first with ourselves, then with one another, then with those who can move the furniture of the world. The paradox of Gemini is that it makes the world both bigger and closer. Bigger because you see the spiderweb of interdependence shimmering across continents. Closer because you feel in your actual body that a hand extended in one room ripples out to rooms you'll never enter. Under strong Gemini patterns, we see the truth of simultaneity, heartbreak and breakthrough, fear and faith, ordinary errands and epical shifts. The twins invite you to be fluent in both tempos, the intimate and the historic. They ask you to keep talking with your people while the earth tilts and the sky revises itself, because those talks are not a distraction from the world. They are the world being remade in your voice. There will be days when the news cycle is a storm and your nervous system is a boat that feels too small. On those days, remember the sacred Gemini practice of the pause. 1 minute to breathe 3 slow breaths. 1 hour to read something that makes you more human. 1 afternoon to meet a friend and say what you have been postponing. Pause is not abdication, it's calibration. From that center you can choose your next sentence with care. And a well-chosen sentence, in a family group chat, in a public hearing, in a boardroom where you don't look like anyone else, can bend reality. That is not exaggeration. That is the physics of narrative. We move where words point us. Practical magic, then, speak to be understood, not to perform. Ask the question that reveals what a room is made of. Write the email that thanks and clarifies. Share an article not to be right, but to make right more likely. If this channel has helped you practice these arts, let it keep you company. Subscribe to Astro Gemini so our future messages meet you without friction. Arriving on the morning you need a compass more than coffee. And if this has nourished you, tap like again at the end. Small signals that widen the path for others who feel alone inside their brave beginnings. I want to know you as we travel together. Share your date of birth and zodiac sign in the comments and tell me one conversation that changed your life. Not just the polished headline. Tell me the weather inside your ribs that day, the fear you almost obeyed, the hope you finally named. Let the thread between us thicken into a cord, then into a bridge. The algorithm will count your words, but the universe will hear your courage. This community reads the comments like a night sky. We find constellations in one another. Gemini's influence on global events is not a prophecy carved in marble. It is a rhythm you can learn to play. When you contribute a kinder sentence, when you forward a resource instead of a rumor, when you amplify a voice that history tried to erase, you are not merely watching the world, you are editing it with love. Imagine all of us, across time zones and languages, choosing our next words as if they were seeds. Imagine the forests that would grow. Imagine a world where negotiations default to dignity, where innovations are braided with ethics, where humor never punches down, where truth is a hospitality we extend even to ourselves. That world is not far. It is already speaking your name. If you have carried pain through these paragraphs, know this: the twins bow to you. They recognize how hard it is to stay open when closing would be quieter. They recognize how brave it is to risk your voice when silence has been your shelter. They whisper a final instruction before you sleep tonight. Write the sentence you need to wake up to tomorrow. Tape it to your mirror. Text it to a friend. Post it where it can find the person you'll never meet who needs it more than you will ever know. That is how the tide turns. One sentence at a time, one breath, one bridge, and then the world remembers what it was reaching for all along. Thank you for letting me into your listening. If you want more of these gentle tools for a louder world, subscribe to Astro Gemini and keep this conversation close. If this spoke to you, like the video so it can keep speaking to others. Support Astro Gemini. Become a channel member for exclusive videos and early access. Share your date of birth and zodiac sign in the comments so we can weave your sky into our story. If you want to hear everything the universe has to say to you, watch these other videos on our channel.